Welcome back to PrepSolution's SHRM Senior Certified Professional Question of the Day. Today, we work a people domain question on HR strategy, where last year's planning models ran aground on a reef they never charted. Cluster, people, competency, HR strategy, difficult, hard. Here's the refrain: map the sky, then plot the course. Here's the scenario. After unexpected European tariffs forced a sudden manufacturing relocation to Mexico, the CHRO reviewed why last year's workforce disruption models failed. The models correctly mapped AI automation impacts but completely missed geopolitical supply chain vulnerabilities. The board now mandates a revised scenario planning framework within 45 days that integrates both factors simultaneously. Identify which strategic action the CHRO must execute first to prevent future modeling failures. Your four options. Option A, implement a global skills taxonomy to identify transferable competencies across the newly proposed manufacturing hubs. Option B, conduct a gap analysis of the current workforce against the projected automation requirements in the Latin American facilities. Option C, design localized retention strategies for critical talent identified in the high-risk European markets. Option D, define the interdependent macro variables and business drivers to establish baseline assumptions for the integrated models. Pause here, pick your answer. Ready? 3 answers do valid scenario planning work. 1 does the only work that precedes all of them. The correct answer is option D. Define the interdependent macro variables and business drivers to establish baseline assumptions for the integrated models. Tweak. Because the previous models failed at a specific step, they tracked one force in isolation when the real world had several forces pulling against each other. The fix is not more downstream activity. The fix is a complete map of interdependent forces before any downstream activity begins. The board did not ask for a workforce intervention. The board asked for a methodology. A methodology has a phase sequence. The first phase is not optional. Why option D is correct. Picture scenario planning as celestial navigation. Last year's navigation had 1 star in the sky. AI automation, the ship of workforce planning, oriented itself toward that 1 star and traced a course forward, but the sea had a reef the chart never drew. Geopolitical supply chain vulnerability, European tariffs, a sudden relocation to Mexico, the ship ran aground. The reef was invisible because the chart had only 1 star. Now picture the same sea with a complete sky above it. AI automation is still there. That star did not disappear, but alongside it, a constellation emerges. Geopolitical trade policy, supply chain dependency, tariff regimes, climate regulation, labor market shifts, and crucially, interdependence lines between them. Tariff regimes connect to supply chain dependency, which connects to geopolitical trade policy, which loops back to tariff regimes. AI automation intersects with labor market shifts, which intersects with climate regulation. None of these forces operates in isolation. The constellation is the network of their interdependencies. With the constellation mapped, triangulation becomes possible. 3 stars together fix the ship's position with confidence no single star could provide. The ship sees the reef this time. The course curves around it. The destination is reached. Same sea, same reef. What changed was the chart. That change is phase 1, variable definition, naming the interdependent macro forces before any course is plotted. Map the sky, then plot the course. There's a second layer, the methodology itself. Peter Schwartz codified scenario planning during his years at Royal Dutch Shell. His methodology has 5 phases. Phase 1, identify driving forces and critical uncertainties. Phase 2, rank by impact and by uncertainty. Phase 3, logic, scenario structures take shape. Phase 4, develop. Full scenarios get built. Phase 5, test, decisions get stress tested against the scenarios. Option D is phase 1. Options A, B, and C belong to phase 4 or later. When OPEC triggered the 1973 oil crisis, Shell's planners had already modeled scenarios where oil supply could be disrupted. Their response time was measured in weeks, not quarters. That speed came from phase 1 discipline. 4 moves, complete phase 1 before phase 2 begins. Move 1. Inventory the driving forces. Catalog every macro force that could shape the operating environment over the planning horizon. Geopolitical trade policy, tariff regimes, AI automation curves, climate regulation, labor market shifts, technology platform consolidation. Macro, not micro. Broad is the point. Narrowing comes later. Move 2, map the interdependencies. Every force identified in move 1 gets mapped against every other force. Which affects which amplifies which dampens which. The map is what distinguishes interdependent variables from siloed ones. The previous models failed at exactly this step. Move 3, identify critical uncertainties. Among all mapped forces, identify the ones that are both highly uncertain in their direction and highly impactful on workforce outcomes. These are the scenario axes. Certain forces get treated as predetermined. Low impact forces get deprioritized. Only the uncertain and impactful forces drive scenarios. Move 4, document the baseline assumptions. The baseline assumptions are the named positions the company is taking on each variable, written, referenceable, versioned. Phases 2 through 5 cannot produce valid outputs if these assumptions are unwritten, vague, or informal. Phase 1 is not the work before the real work. Phase 1 is the work that makes the rest real. Now, why the other 3 fail? Option A, global skills taxonomy for transferable competencies. A skills taxonomy identifies which capabilities transfer across which future operating configurations. The operating configurations in this scenario depend on scenarios that depend on variables that option D defines first. Building a taxonomy against undefined future states produces a taxonomy that may not match the states that actually emerge. Valid work. Wrong phase, no chart. Option B, gap analysis against projected automation requirements. A gap analysis requires knowing the future state requirements to measure the gap against. The scenario explicitly states the models failed to anticipate geopolitical factors. Projected requirements built on those failed models are the wrong benchmark. Valid work, wrong phase, no chart. Option C, localized retention strategies for high-risk European markets. Calling European markets high risk presupposes that the integrated scenario framework has already classified them. That framework does not yet exist. Designing retention strategies for a risk classification that has not been established produces strategies for a false risk map. Valid work. Wrong phase, no chart. The pattern. In any scenario planning question, identify the methodology phase the option belongs to. Only phase 1 variable definition produces the foundation every later phase depends on. Do not do phase 4 work before phase 1 is complete. That is question number 15. If you want to pass SHRM-SCP the first time, PrepSolution has you covered. 1,500 strategic questions across all 3 domains, 3 full-length mock exams, 600 high-density review flashcards, the SJI Strategic Decision Masterclass, an adaptive 12-week study calendar. Thanks for watching. Practice every day. Pass with confidence. PrepSolution.com/exam/SHRM-SCP.